This is a real investigative journalist. How many Pulitzers have you won?
Oh, no Pulitzers, just a lot of stories.
John Solomon, Washington Times. We want to talk to you about the Ukraine today because it's very confusing and there are a lot of different sides, but it seems like pretty much whatever side John McCain is on or Obama is on, perhaps we shouldn't be on those sides.
We're confused because the Americans are speaking with multiple voices, and it's very confusing. We don't know what we want to do. The way to look at Ukraine is that the majority of the country wants to go democratic, wants to be aligned with the West, with the United States. And there's a small breakaway region called Crimea that's very close to Russia. And it looks like Russia is going to try to take that region by force, then have a fake election and say that Crimea has succeeded from Ukraine. And then they'll have that very strategic piece of land. And we'll be left with Ukraine without that strategic location. And that's bad for America. It's very Cold War-like. We're really in a new Cold War. I think Vladimir Putin very quietly has outplayed Barack Obama, and we're in the middle of a Cold War, and he's winning it right now. I mean, there's no other way to say it.
Now, his poll numbers are huge right now. He's in the 70s. Yeah. Putin is okay. Yeah. Bad guy, good guy, horrible guy. What is this guy?
I think if you're a Russian, you probably think he's a good guy, right? He's made Russia more prominent. He put on a good show at the Olympics for the United States and for the West. He's not such a good guy because he doesn't share a lot of our values. He's got one thing that holds power over the world, and that's a lot of oil and gas. And all of the European Union is relying on it. And so they can't do much. If he shuts off their gas tomorrow, Europe is frozen.
That's right. I had a question. With the Pulse of America not wanting military action anywhere, they just don't have a taste for it anymore. What do you think our options are if we don't do anything that shows strength militarily?
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think there's any appetite in Congress right now for a military action. I think you're looking at some form of an economic set of sanctions, maybe enforced by a military blockade if we get into a very severe mode. One of the great things for the United States is because of the fracking revolution we've had here, we've got all this new oil and gas. We don't need Russian oil. None of our markets need it, but a lot of our allies do in Europe, and we don't have enough to send over there in a short time. We can't even get our own Trans-Canada pipeline approved, and so we have all this oil that could come in from Canada. We can't get that. I think we're really stuck to looking kind of weak, kind of Jimmy Carter-like, with maybe some economic sanctions, and I think Russia wins this match.
What about China? What's going on there?
A little bit of a slowing of economy. I mean, the story for the last 10 years was China was the rage of the world, right? Even when we were in recession, they were growing. They're now realizing you can only grow so fast, and then you get a lot of problems. You have pollution, choking pollution there. I mean, not like what we talk about here. We make up a lot of stories about how bad pollution there. They have real pollution where you can't breathe. They are having problems with crime. They're having problems with their own separatist terrorism occurring in different regions of the country. And their economy is sort of leveled off as the markets have stabilized and the U.S. is now able to compete again for goods. And so I think the story of China is they have a very good, strong strategic position militarily, but economically they've kind of hit a rounding off. They've leveled off for a while, and the question is, can they grow from there, or do they sort of sit there for a while, which would be good for us?
What should we be the most concerned about with the world right now? There are a lot of different things it seems like we have to be aware of.
Yeah, I just gave a speech a few weeks ago, and I said I think the 4 places to watch in the next couple of years. Iran, is this deal with them real, if the case, and the president has something to crow about? If it's not, and there's a lot of reason to think there isn't. The other day, Israel and the United States intercepted a bunch of missiles that Iran's not supposed to have, right? If that backfires and we misplay our hands and Iran becomes nuclearized, which is a very real possibility, I do think the Middle East...
Wait, no, we have sanctions against them. So it's everything's we trust them now, right?
We seem to be on very friendly terms, except they're not very friendly to us. We're just friendly to them. We've released a lot of money from the sanctions, billions of dollars of money that's helped them. And I don't think we've gotten a whole lot back in return. Now, we've got to wait and see. There could be some things going on behind the scenes we don't see. But if that backfires and Iran becomes nuclearized, the entire dynamic of the Middle East changes forever. Saudi Arabia is going to go get a nuclear weapon, and then it just spins out of control from there.
Financially, obviously with Barack Obama's new budget proposal, it looks to me like he's just, continuing to spend and doesn't want to stop, doesn't care anything about the deficit. More than likely, the House is not going to let that go anywhere. But what do you see financially for our future if we don't address some of these problems? How much longer do you think we have before it may collapse?
That's a great question. There's a movie or a show on HBO, I guess, called The House of Cards, and our economy feels like a house of cards. $17 trillion of debt. I found it interesting that the president went to a school with young children yesterday to say how good his budget was when he was saddling them with much more debt. I mean, They were
years
fine.
old, 5 years old.
And their children's children will be paying the debt that he rolled up. It's not sustainable. And Congress took a lot of pressure off the president when they gave him the budget deal this past year with lifted the spending caps with nothing in return. And the president returned by saying, I just want to spend $600 billion more. Give me some more money, a little more taxes. Until there's a change in power, I think this is going to go on. And the question is, how long will it go on before the Americans can no longer write checks to cover it? And we're getting closer to that point. I really believe that.
Okay, but now we're also cutting our military. While the rest of the world seems to be building up their power, we're diminishing ours.
Isn't it ironic that a war hawk named Chuck Hagel is now the dove shrinking the Pentagon? We've abused our Pentagon for a long time. We asked them to fight 2 simultaneous wars, and then we're going to come back and say, well, we'll just cut off a whole bunch of you guys and shrink it down. We have broken equipment that doesn't work. We've got broken men that aren't getting the sort of needs, and women that aren't getting the sort of treatment they get from the VA or their own hospitals. It's another crisis waiting to brew. I think in 2015 you'll see a lot of angry veterans realizing what their government's done for them after all they've done for us. And no one in Congress has really championed it, and I think that's really sad. There's no one speaking up saying, we've got to fix this, we've got to change this. I mean, there's news conferences, but no one really doing action that would change the dynamic. And I feel bad for the men and women that did 3, 5, 6, 7 tours of duty. And we're going to come back and we're going to make them unemployed. And the ones that are going to stay behind are going to be working with a lot of broken equipment.
So sad. All right, John. Hypothetically, who do you think is our best bet in 2016?
You know, it's so early. I've covered 6 presidential elections now. It's so early in the process, and no one has really broken free yet and said, I'm the guy to beat. Or I'm the woman to beat. There's some very strong women out there. Susanna Martinez, let's keep an eye on her. I think she has some potential. Nikki Haley is certainly got some opportunity. Hillary Clinton, clearly for the Democrats. I think that's just a coronation.
But they're floating Jeb Bush now.
Wouldn't it be funny to have Clinton v. Bush, the rematch? Son versus wife. I mean, that would be amazing. Jeb has an organization. One of the things that concerns me about some of the front runners right now, both Ted Cruz and Rand Paul don't have the sort of organizational structure, at least that I can see, that you need to have if you're getting ready for 2016. And so this year will be the year of grassroots building. If they can build a good grassroots infrastructure in all the states they need, then they have a chance of winning. But, you know, Barack Obama showed what an infrastructure can do. You can be a nobody, no one heard of you, and if you have an infrastructure and social media, you can win an election. And a lot of what I've seen is behind schedule for the top contenders on the Republican side.
You know what I don't understand is that the Democrats all seem to rally around their people, and they're not a split party. But the Republican Party, you've got a split where you've got the old guard against the Ted Cruzes and the Mike Lees and those guys, and they're doing everything they can to undermine those people. How do we overcome that, and how do we combine the party, I mean, to make it whole and be, I mean, I hate to say it, be more like the Democrats, but they follow in lockstep. They do.
You're exactly right. You know, usually a strong personality does it better than anything. Barack Obama brought a sort of fractured Democratic Party together, and everybody got excited. And the Democrats now, we talk about as sort of being holistic and working together. If you think back 6, 7 years ago, they were kind of broken and dysfunctional. And so a strong personality who can unite and get below all the petty fights that are going on every day and keep the argument up here about what our values and our solutions are as conservatives, that's what's going to win an election. So far, there's still a lot of backfighting. I know generals say you never win a war when you're shooting your own people, and I think that goes on every day with us and on the right. And I think that's one of the big problems that's occurred. Now, can someone rise above it and say enough's enough? The only enemy's that enemy over there. Let's put these aside. But look, we came to CPAC, and there's been a lot of. Reagan did it. I mean, he was a very unifying figure. There's no doubt. And W did it in 2000. I mean, and he had an infrastructure in place, all the things we talked about. But no one has jumped to that forefront yet and say, I think that's the person to watch. There's a lot of good talent, and someone will get there. Someone will rise to the top.
All right, John Solomon. Follow him. Read every single thing that this man writes, because there's some wise stuff coming out of his brain.
Thank you
so much.
Good to have the time with you.